Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Heath with my partner in crime, Lenox.
What's up, guys?
We will be discussing our virtues today. So sit back, get your listening ears open, and get ready to be indulged in wisdom. Hint, hint.
All right, so pretty much, Heath. I think the first thing we got to talk about is the good life, because that's our prompt, What virtue is most important in attaining the good life?
Mm-hmm.
So I got this definition for a good life.
I'll read off mine after, for sure.
The good life. Living a life that is devoted to honoring God despite hardships.
Nice. Mine is kind of on the same relative path, but mine's a little more simple. I just said, living a life surrendered to God.
Okay, cool.
I feel like at the end of the day, at the base of the foundation, if you're surrendered to God, it's a good life, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's our purpose. That's what we're called to do, is to honor God in everything we do. So, I mean, that's the good life. Right, so we got those definitions down. Good life, pretty similar. I mean, we have the same general idea of the good life, so make it easier to compare our virtues. The one I want to talk about personally is patience. I just think it's most important. I think it'll guide you in the best direction. I think we should strive for all the virtues, but I think patience is a good start if you're going to work to get the other ones.
Mm-hmm. How would you define patience? What's your definition?
Well, looking at what the book said, Mrs. Pryor, patience is the willingness to endure suffering well. And that definition really struck with me. That's why I kind of chose it as the most important virtue, because my definition of the good life mentions hardships, and being able to endure suffering well is super important in life, because we're all going to go through hardships. And I mean, that's the essence of the good life to me, is honoring God even though you're still going to be going through hardships.
Nice. To go to my virtue that I have been talking about and that I'm going to talk about is temperance. Temperance to me is really just moderation, I would say, at the simplest word. And a quote that I have on Reading Well that I really liked was on page 53. Not that matters to you guys listening at home. But one attains the virtue of temperance when one's appetites have been shaped in such that one's very desires are in proper order and proportion. Appetites as in and desires is just what do you want, what are you doing throughout the day? What's your life look like? What's your life look like and stuff? You got anything else?
So temperance is having moderation in everything you do.
Yeah.
Does that include you need the wisdom to do it, or you could just be okay, I'm going to do half of this, half of that?
I mean, I would just say you got to know what moderation is. Everything's good in moderation. So, I feel like it's a personal judgment on whether or not you're going above, what you your more excess of what you need to do. What I like about temperance though also is it targets a lot of worldly human things that people just kind of go through the motions about. For example, food, drink, and sex, if desired improperly, they can be sources of almost misery, and I think it'll lead to a weak-willed person.
Okay. So sources of misery.
Living in misery where you don't even realize you're living in misery. You're living, the way you're living is just, you become so accustomed to it that you don't realize that there's a better way of living.
So a spiritual misery almost?
Yeah.
You're finding happiness in the wrong things.
Exactly.
And you're blind to see that it's wrong because you're enjoying them.
That's exactly, yeah.
So, why do you think that's most important though?
To keep your things in moderation.
Mixing it with because we're kind of here to argue, right? I want to kind of discuss I want to put my patience virtue and I want to challenge it with yours and try to explain that I think mine's more important in achieving the good life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yours is a more important virtue. That's what you're saying. What's your main argument? Not your main. Like, what's one of your main reasonings like why patience is the best?
I think like to be temperate, you have to have patience.
I mean, yeah, I think they also tie into each other. Like, I think like if you hold a very high amount of temperance, then you're also going to be very successful in like that patience category, and I think vice versa as well.
I disagree. I mean, like, I kind of see what you mean, but I think like you could have temperance without patience.
Okay, I see that, but you can't be patient without temperance. Is what you're saying, or no?
No, flip that. I meant you can't have temperance without patience, but you can have patience without temperance. Because, I mean, temperance, right? If you're going to put things in moderation, even though, like, they don't make you happy, so to speak, like, you need to be patient with that. That's part of enduring suffering. Like, you want to, I don't know, go out with your friends, but you know they're going to do something bad. Like, you have to kind of sit alone or find something else to do. And I guess suffering, I mean, you're patient. Like, you're like, hey, I shouldn't do that. That's bad for me. It sounds fun, but I know I shouldn't do it. Like, I'm going to sit here alone in boredom and just deal with that.
And that resembles patience, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
But then, say, like, back to the friends thing, like, your friends are, you know, they're drinking or something, right? And you're like, you know what, man? Like, I don't want to, like, I'm not into that, you know, so I'm going to show patience, right? But when you get older, like, drinking's still going to be there. So,
But is it necessarily wrong when you're older? I mean, it's wrong for us because it's illegal, and God calls us to honor our authorities.
God didn't make it illegal, though. The United States did. So, I mean, at one point, like...
But God calls us to honor our authority because He puts those people in charge of us.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But anyway, I'm gonna name 4 like things that you do, and I just want to tell you, or I just want you to tell me like if it's like if you need to use both patience and temperance in it, or if it's just one or the other.
Okay.
All right. Bearing your own difficulties. What would that be?
Patience.
Nice. Waiting in line for lunch.
Patience.
Raising your hand and waiting calmly for the teacher to answer your question.
Patience.
Waiting without complaining.
Patience.
Good. So those all 4 are patience, but what my point is I'm trying to tie them into temperance. You know what I'm saying?
So, go ahead.
I know, I'm about to, actually. So, temperance, things in moderation. Temperance allows us to like be in control of our human desires. So like in order for us not to be like consumed or like corrupted by like worldly things, like we have to have temperance. And so like waiting in line for lunch, like yeah, you could give into your human desire and just, you know, like me sometimes, like cut the line so you can get lunch early. I mean, I'm sure you do that too, right?
Yeah, I have before, yes.
So like you need temperance to control that human desire. Be like, hey, I got to go in the back of the line, you know? You also need patience, don't get me wrong, but you definitely need temperance. Raising your hand and waiting calmly for your teacher to answer your question. A lot of people probably just want to shout out the answer because of maybe like their desire to be right or their feeling of like being the first one to get the answer right is a lot greater than the power of like their patience, you know, raising their hand. So, like, okay. I mean, I think just off those 2 examples alone, like, temperance definitely ties into patience, like, a lot more than I think you're giving it credit for.
No, I mean, I think it for sure does. It is my argument that patience is the most important virtue. Yeah. So, of course, I'm going to argue that you need patience in order to be temperate, like, especially because they're so similar.
Yeah, exactly. So they could go both ways. Temperance, you need temperance to be patient. You need patience to be temperate.
But that's the point I disagree with.
You need patience to be temperate? That's what you're saying?
No.
You need temperance to be patient.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think patience is almost the base of temperance.
All right, give me an example of you being patient but not you being temperate.
Okay. All right, so this is honestly, this works for both of us because we both play baseball. So, say you're like having a really bad season, right? Like you're batting 100, and like you just want to hit better, right? But like you're working hard, you're doing all the right things, and like you're just not getting better, you know? Like I think with baseball, you have to have so much patience, and that in itself is an example of like enduring suffering. Like you're doing everything you can to try and be better, and you're just not getting better. Like it's just how it is, you know.
Yeah.
Especially like with baseball, it's such like a
it's failure sport.
we understand, yeah. Like you don't understand why you're doing bad sometimes, and like
It just happens.
I think that's patience. I think that's an example. I mean, I wouldn't really think that's temperance, but if you want to challenge me, that'd be good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good point. I'm trying to think. Let me think. What would temperance look like in a baseball perspective? Anyway, I have something on my document right here that says temperance involves curbing sadness of the sort in question. So, like, if you're struggling in baseball, you're probably not very happy. You're probably a little sad. Temperance, it allows you to control that feeling. Like, if you don't have temperance, then you'll just allow that depression and that just that struggle to just consume you, and I think just put you in a deeper hole. But I mean, if you have patience, then that works too. So I think they work together more than they contradict each other. But again, like patience, I think it involves a man like not receding from the good of the virtue. So I think having patience in that scenario would be a player that, you know, he doesn't stop working hard. He just keeps going at it, and he just keeps going at it because he knows like eventually his hard work will pay off, and, you know, he'll prosper in that sport. But yeah, I think temperance you just are able to just control that sadness, and it's not so much of a weight. It's more of like it is what it is, and let me just like
Grow from it.
yeah, like hardships happen, failure happens, and like that's just part of life. So I might as well just figure out how to control that, and, you know, maybe put it in a box or something.
That part,
Box it like a fish.
That part where you said it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. All right. To go off that point you made of it is what it is, that's just how life is sometimes. I have this quote from the Bible, familiar text. Proverbs 14, verse 29 says, "Whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays folly." So, like, that it is what it is statement builds off that verse because, like, we're patient because we understand that what's happening is a part of God's plan, whether we like it or not. And so being patient gives you a great understanding because you're able to grow, whether it's a good situation or bad, because we understand that God's got a unique path for all of us. With baseball specifically, say you're not getting better and you're being patient, like that could be God's plan of like, hey, baseball isn't for you. Like, you know, find your real calling in life. Find what God calls you to do, not just what you think it is, because if you think it is and you assume fast, you're not patient, and that makes you folly.
That makes sense, yeah. I like that. I like that that outlook on baseball. Like, if you're failing, you know, like, hey, man, like, maybe God telling me, like, this isn't for me. But also, I feel like, I mean, how would that work? Like if you quit, like, it's not very patient of you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think you would know.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not you quitting, but it's,
Like,
you know, playing as long as you can, and then you're just out of opportunity.
Yeah, like someone's got to quit for you. Like, you didn't make the team or something. So
Yeah.
You got cut. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. I actually, to dig in to Proverbs, I actually have a verse from Proverbs as well. And the first phrase kind of resembles more patience, and then the second one, I think, goes after temperance. And I really like this because it displays both virtues. It says, Proverbs 16:32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty. So I like that because it displays patience. And then the next part of the verse, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. And I like that too because it's just like it's talking about like your desires. As a king, if I was to be ruling a nation, like yeah, I'd wanna take a city. But who am I to be the judge over millions of people when we're all human and we're all the same and we're all images of God. And as a Christ follower, I think like a king should, it's God's kingdom. It's not
Rule
yours.
humbly. Rule
Yeah.
under God.
Yeah. Rule as if you're not even like a stereotypical king.
Rule understanding that God selected you to be king so that you could carry out his glory.
Like a disciple. I like that.
Servant leader. Portrait of a graduate, shout out.
Yeah, I like that. Let's kind of adventure on to more of our. Let's see if we can find a better understanding of our virtues through our each of each other's vices. Like, what's your vice for patience? Do you have that? What I said.
Well, when you say like vices, do you mean like in my life where I show that I'm not patient?
No, like the vice of like temperance is intemperance, obviously. But
so like an antonym.
Yeah, and an
like
antagonist.
A reverse definition.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, impatient.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, I'm sure that's a person who doesn't endure suffering well. That actually sparks something about like hope.
Okay.
I think an impatient person is hopeless.
Okay.
I think they're, not looking at the bigger picture of things and how they could grow.
They're so hopeless, they just do things like off the minute, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they're just like, ooh, I don't like this situation. I'm out of here. Like, my life sucks. Got to find a new thing, you know? So I have a quote from Mrs. Pryor, page 199. Simply wondering how the story would resolve gave me patience to bear it a little better. So.
Ooh, I like that. It's like curiosity.
Hope.
Yeah.
Curiosity and hope, yeah. So, I mean, like, reading that is just, like, I don't know, it kind of excites me, like, because when, like, I'm in hardships, I personally, too, look like, hey, like, how can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? Will this make me better? Like, I just think, like, being patient it's almost like a fun virtue to have because it gives you something to look forward to.
I like that. I feel like I struggle with patience kind of because, like, if I'm in a bad situation, I always end up getting through it, but I don't look at it as me being patient. I just look at it as, like, yeah, maybe I'm just miserable for X amount of days, X amount of months. And I think if I had a more patient outlook on it and like you were saying, like hope, having a more hopeful outlook on it, then just let me just stampede my
Rot
way.
in this.
Yeah, rot until it's just, hibernation's over. Then, I think I would probably enjoy my life more. Some real.
It's kind of deep, man.
Something real. Not like that, but you know what I'm saying.
No, yeah, like when you're in like tough times, instead of being like, man, this sucks, but like I gotta live through it.
Yeah.
Being like, all right, man, like this sucks, but how could I be better, man?
Yeah.
Like, what is God sending me into this situation for? Like, what can I pull from this? What does he want to show me?
Yeah, more optimistic outlook. I feel like a lot of people in today's world need to have a more optimistic outlook on life. And I feel like people don't even realize that they're living in like their own hell in a way.
Yeah. Living in sin.
Living in your own thoughts, man. Does something to a person.
Yeah.
It's kind of gnarly.
Like the Bible says, don't rely on your own understanding.
Yeah. And I like that. Yeah. Don't rely on your own understanding. And that also ties into like knowing that something out there is bigger than yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, something's bigger than you, and maybe your problem that you're struggling with is the root of it is bigger than, yourself. So,
yeah, like there's so much good around us, and like we always like as humans. I don't know. Me personally, I can't speak for every human, but I feel like we gravitate towards the wrong things, and like we gravitate to like selfish like things that give us pleasure, happiness, joy,
Mm-hmm.
all those things. Like we drag ourselves down a bad path.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think like why do you think like you just said, like, we gravitate towards like pleasure and joy and things like that? Like, at the end of the day, like, why is that bad though? You know, like, if you were just like pleasurable all the time, every single second of the day, like, why is that a bad thing? I mean, is it because like there's no growth, or like what?
I mean, I think we can use Jesus as an example. Like he lived his life honoring God. He lived a perfect life, so to speak, and he went through hardships. He wasn't happy at all the time, but like he understood that his purpose was greater than like his temporary happiness. Like kind of what you said, we're like living in our own hell.
Like living in a misery.
Yeah, like if we're doing that, joy or not, like we're not growing as people. We're not living for God's glory.
That's interesting. Like, people, when they think of Jesus, they say like he lived the perfect life, but like if you look at Jesus's life and all the things that maybe he didn't do that humans do, like I bet you a lot of people wouldn't even say that's a perfect life.
Yeah, 100%. They're like, oh, like he had to die. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of a dumb life. Like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to go party with my friends. Like, that's fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but Jesus is like incomprehensible to humans in a way. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. To kind of like wrap things up. I want to talk about this one quote that we were just talking about, like living in your own hell and you don't even realize in it. This quote I got on Reading Well, page 54. Allows us temperance. It's on the temperance. Temperance allows us to be masters of our pleasures instead of becoming its slave. And I feel like you're just so quick to becoming like a slave to your own life that like you don't even realize it, and most people don't even know how to oppose it, and I definitely struggle with that.
Yeah, like we get caught up like not knowing between right or wrong. And like just knowing, I don't want to say good and bad, but like personal good and bad, like happiness and sadness, and like gravitating towards what brings you happiness. Bless you. Bless you.
Hey, what'd you
That's
say?
you.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I was mid-thought.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like gravitating towards like things that bring us happiness, even though it probably drags us down in the long run. Brings us away from God, when really like that's where we have all the happiness we could ever need.
A question that I often think about in life is like, I feel like I'm too worried about like what to do, and like you said, what's right, what's wrong. Like in my life, like I'm too worried about like trying to be temperate. I'm too worried about trying to be patient. I'm too worried about not being sinful. That I feel like as a human, like this is a theory that I have. If you just trust God, like you'll be all right.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
100%. It's all about faith.
Like,
you mean like
you stop thinking about those things.
Jesus take the wheel, like
yeah, like I'm just
I'm
gonna
sitting passenger, and that's like what we talked about in Bible.
Like I'm just gonna do what I want. Like I'm just gonna do not what I want, but I'm just gonna do what I do.
Yeah, like remember in Bible when we were talking about the different rooms.
Yeah.
And like how when he was at like the workbench, he was like, all right, Jesus, like here's my life. I want you to take it. I want you to remodel it to your glory. And like from then on, like he said that Jesus brought him like all the happiness and joy he could ever need, because like when we let God take control of our lives, like he's able to work way more than like we could ever imagine, and like
as ourselves in our lives.
like he works through us, and that's what like really glorifying him is in my eyes. And I think like being patient and in that situation and understanding that what he's doing for you is for your best and it'll help you glorify him, like that's the essence of patience, and that's ultimately the essence of the good life.
I like that. We have another more people coming in to do podcasts. So, I really enjoyed talking to you, Lenny, and
Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for the conversation, Heath.
thanks everyone listening at home. We'll see you next week.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK through 12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.